What's going on, boys? Thanks to our patrons and Fiverr customers, subscribe to our Patreon free to stay in the loop, arm yourselves, life stuff. Or more like death stuff. We got death on the mind today. This one's probably going to be messy, so bear with me. I mentioned 2 or 3 weeks ago one of the dogs was not doing well. We got him to start eating again with human food, ground beef, gravy, that kind of thing, and that worked for a little while. But now he's slipping again, and he's not eating anything. So he's scheduled to be put down on Monday, and the way life works, of course, all information coming in is about death. And I feel like I'm being primed to be sad. These days, when something like this happens, I don't consciously feel anything at first. I know unconsciously I'm feeling things, but those emotions don't hit me until I see other people feeling sad or feeling whatever. At that point, I feel sad, and I have almost no control over it. Examples distant and close. Last year, or very early this year, I don't remember, that woman died and left her only son, father's not in the picture, just alone. And I didn't really know her. I wasn't close with, or very close with, any of the extended family. I mean, I knew of them. So really, I have no reason to be sad. And I wasn't. I wasn't before, and I'm not now, but at that funeral, and in the week or two following, I was very sad. Then close, my paternal grandfather. He was an awful person, abused that entire side of the family, is the reason they are as fucked up as they are. And I was fully primed not to be sad. But then, when they sprung it on me that he finally died, they didn't give me any warning that he was even declining, and then got really shitty with me when I couldn't attend the funeral for shit outside my control. I was still very sad, solely based on the sadness other people were feeling and their heightened emotions. And it's frustrating because I'm aggravated that I was managed to be made sad. And then with this dog, I take care of him, but this dog and I aren't close. But I know in advance I'm going to feel devastated, and this universe info dump priming shit is not helping. Regardless, for all these reasons, I've been thinking about death, including in a thinking about psychedelics and spiritualism lens. My father picked another fight with me, and this time he got what he was looking for. I was not on my game. He got to push me around, he got to embarrass me, and I was very agitated, but a thought came to me and smoothed everything over, at least for the moment. Namely, he's a slipping, aging man, and he probably should push me around and make me feel like shit while he can, because he's not going to have that opportunity forever. How long until the next health episode? Is this one going to kill you, or is it going to disable you, either physically or mentally? If these are the things you want to express, do them now and do them well while you can. And this feeling was distinct from other similar types of feelings because this one didn't express itself to me in a power way. It felt more supportive in a fucked up Stockholm Syndrome way. You are running out of time to do what you want to do on this planet in the ways you want to do them. If you want to hate me well, and get it all out. Leave nothing unsaid. And this feeling moved me into a different feeling space. People talk about life or death experiences or near death experiences, or looking down the barrel of your mortality, or psychedelics too, like these eye opening experiences that show you the total love of existence. And that is the popular parroted outlook. However, if you go digging, you'll find quite a few accounts of a different perspective or a different voice speaking through that array of microphones. Instead of the beauty and magnificence and total love of existence, a refinement or a distillation of everything awful about existence. Taking psilocybin, for instance, and not seeing the love in everyone, or experiencing something life alteringly traumatic and not coming out of it with a new appreciation for the good things in life. I can't speak to psychedelics, but a 2-year trial with a minimum 15-year sentence in the middle of COVID, at the beginning of COVID, and seeing just how awful people can be, experiencing being a statistic, and thank God not being one of the worst statistics. I did not come out of that with a new appreciation for life or people. And that's one of the reasons I'm so hesitant about serious psychedelics. The biggest reason, first and foremost, being the potential of having a breakdown and looking down the barrel of another trial, this one almost certainly with no good outcome. But the second reason, the upgrading of a plus 10 set of negative feelings, experiences, to a plus 15 set of negative feelings and experiences. What happens if you find out on a scale you are not accustomed to, you are not wrong about all this evil in the world, the evil in people, the evil of our species? What happens if, instead of coming out of this with a new, effective, loving outlook, your present feelings and experiences become so sharpened you can't even touch them? Today I listened to the I don't know if it's the final interview, but it's the Terrence McKenna on Art Bell, or with Art Bell, on Terrence McKenna's brain tumor and impending doom. And McKenna is one of the voices I think very highly of. His death wasn't instant. He had time to look down the barrel and consider everything. And he had what appeared to be a positive outlook. And that got me thinking about experiencing or the death event in that way. Not something immediate, but something too early and drawn out. And that really is not the way I want to go, for the reasons we just discussed. I don't want my final days, potentially, to be an ever lengthening and ever sharpening knife in my stomach. And let's say, on the flip side, you do end up in an event like this, your death is long and drawn out. What happens if you do develop a new appreciation for existence? I don't know, because I have never been in that situation, but I'm concerned, even as I'm feeling these things, there would be this terrible creeping suspicion everything I'm thinking and feeling is bullshit, prompted by this experience. every single thing you've experienced in life, from the mundane to the supernatural, has indicated ugliness, evil, and all of a sudden it's completely different? That doesn't sound right to me. If that transcendent positive experience would be something like me would feel in that situation, and I'm not sure it would be. I'd like to die abruptly. And this isn't to say I'd like to die, we've talked about this. For me, whenever I feel I want to die, what that actually translates to, once you've had very bad experiences, is not I want to die, but instead, I would very much like a more enjoyable life. A life in which the conditions I have been conditioned to desire are met. And I think conditioning goes a lot deeper and is a lot firmer, or the hooks are sunk deeper, can be, than people are comfortable admitting. That's one of the reasons I admire the Aztec outlook. From birth, you are conditioned not to expect what should be, but what is. And what is not good. And I wonder if life would be easier without, or with that conditioning, instead of this Western individual, everybody's great, everything is great, you can make it conditioning. But on that note, one of the other things that's been on my mind is what about life or about existence should we be concerned with? I was watching The Matrix a couple days ago, and I remembered a time when I was much younger. I didn't think The Matrix was a good movie at all outside the shootout sequence. Now, with time, I appreciate the movie, I think, the way it's supposed to be appreciated. But combined with death, I started thinking about what is supposed to be important about life. Because, like the movie, reality hasn't changed or doesn't change. All that changes is the way you look at it. Or maybe, to be more exact, which aspect of the thing you put the crown on. I think it's natural to assume what you place importance on or prioritize now is better or more accurate than what you prioritized when you were younger, and maybe you find people you think have even better priorities than you do right now, and you try to emulate them. When you're a kid, you like the shootout. When you're older, you like the statement about reality. Maybe you refine that a bit further in your 60s into something else about the movie. But what freaks me out, it's twofold. One, maybe there isn't an ideal aspect of anything to prioritize, so liking The Matrix only for the shootout is as valid as liking it for its statement about reality is. And then two, maybe there is something or higher things worth prioritizing, but humans don't have the age or the lifespan or even the genetic mental capacity to reach those things. So either there's nothing, or there is something, but you'll never achieve it. And when I hear people talk about psychedelics or any number of philosophical outlooks or whatever, you would think if there were one correct answer, it would have proliferated by now. Achieved total dominance through effectiveness, mimetically, the way humans have on this planet genetically. That hasn't happened. We're programmed to play a game there's no winning, at least from our point of view. And that's where the spiritualism comes in. A while ago, we talked about the way it seems like dying is not as dangerous if your mind is in the right place. And I think it is possible to get to those places, at least temporarily. Places from which, if you die, that's fine, because your mind or your consciousness or your spirit is angled correctly to handle death in a quotes good way, if there is a good way. But if there is a good way, again, there's no universal to that. There's no way to figure out what makes it good, because what makes one person feel okay to die temporarily is not going to work for somebody else, but you can feel when you're in that state. And that makes me think maybe the goal of life is not to live as long as you can, or even to accomplish all that much on this plane of existence, but instead to die in the correct state of mind. But outside extreme action and willpower, how are you supposed to make those things line up? So, considering everything we've discussed in this video, where my mind is right now, I feel like there is a correct way to die, but the requirements to make that happen are totally out of our hands. Or at least the steps and diagrams are obscured to us, and they change all the time. And with that feeling, what I'd like to do is not try to work out exactly what needs to happen and how it needs to happen, but instead to do what my instincts tell me to do and pray that's the right set of actions. Because I don't think there's any way to know what you're supposed to do, at least in that clinical, orderly fashion you would want it, with something as important as your death. You aren't missing anything because you aren't, if there is something to get, you aren't capable of getting it in a way you would find satisfactory. So I would prefer not to think about it, or not to need to think about it, just to do what I feel I'm supposed to do and take comfort in that until I'm dead. Yet, I still feel like I'm missing something. And I really hope when the band-aid gets ripped off, it makes sense. I had a weird half-awake thought last night. What if we don't live in a concrete reality, but instead live in a smoke reality? Like the way the laws of physics exist as they are, because we're sort of existing in the exhaust of a big ignition. The very rules that allow us to exist aren't solid. They appear solid because of our point of view and our lifespans. But in reality, these rules we can't think beyond are like whatever makes up exhaust coming out of a tailpipe, and at some point it's all going to evaporate, dissipate. What happens when the laws of physics dissipate? I don't know, and I would much prefer if we didn't need to think about these things or feel compelled to think about these things, or we somehow developed the capacity to understand these things. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.